Alright, Squid Game Season 3, the final season of the entire series, which brings everything to a close. So, is this season good and did they end it well? So, in this review, I'll get into all of that. And I just want to mention that this is going to be a non-spoiler review, so I won't be getting into any spoilers or anything like that. So this season actually starts off right at the end of Season 2 and it continues on with the current story. Now, after watching this, I can tell there are people that are not going to like this because of certain things, and I'll get into that in the review as well. But for me, I actually did like this. I think it does bring a good closure to the story and the characters in this. Even though there are some things that are a little bit rushed, I think it is a good ending to the show. Now, about the ending itself, the ending does have a deeper meaning to it. If you've seen the show, you know what I'm talking about, but the ending does have a deeper meaning, and I did like that they did it that way, because it does have a deep meaning. Now, I'm not going to talk about it because I have to get into heavy spoilers, and I don't want to spoil it for people, but yes, the ending does have a deeper meaning. I think the show was acted very well, and I think the actors did do a very good job portraying these characters and their emotions. Now, when it comes to the story, because this is like a continuation of the story. Now, I think they did a good job like writing this story. However, it does feel a bit rushed at times with certain characters. And I could say this season is very predictable. Like, as you're watching this, you can predict exactly what's going to happen. Like, here's the thing. For me, this show, like I'm talking about the entire show, it was always been predictable for me. Like, even back in Season 1, I knew that the old man was a part of the the crew that was behind the whole game. Like, I predicted that even in Season 1. So this show for me is actually predictable. But this season was much more predictable. Like, as the show was going on and all the games that they were playing, like, you can immediately tell who was going to live and die. You can tell immediately. Which I will say that's the only big negative thing about this season, is it was very predictable. Now, the reason why that's a negative thing is because, now, I'm going to say this as vague as possible, but something happens near the end of the show where they're trying to bring suspense into the story. Like, the main character has to care about something that's bigger than him. Now, if you guys have seen the show, you know what I'm talking about, but because he's tied to this thing, how is he going to survive? How is this going to happen? But as the show keeps going on, you can predict exactly what's going to happen. That's the thing about this. So I can see, because the suspense, because it was predictable, there was no suspense, if that makes sense. Hopefully you guys know what I'm talking about, because when sometimes you watch, like, you're watching something and there's suspense, you're thinking, oh, what's going to happen next? So this character going to live? Are they going to be able to survive this situation they're in? But you know how normal writers do that, right? They write stories like that. But the problem is with this season, it is so predictable that you can see things coming a mile away, to where the suspense is just not there, because you can predict exactly what's going to happen. See, that's the only big negative I have with this show, is because it's predictable and there's no suspense. Now, everything else is pretty good. Like I said, the acting's pretty good. The actors did a very good job portraying these characters. The overall story arc is okay. Like, it does bring a closure to all these characters. Well, there are some things that are a bit rushed, which I'll get into in a second. But yeah, most of the show is actually pretty good. Now, I did mention this in my last review when I was reviewing Season 2, is that, well, the one thing this show does very well is they get the mind of the psychopath really well. Because to a psychopath, to a narcissist, they have no empathy towards another human being, to where when they cross into the line of psychopath, they want to see people suffering. They want to, that's fun for them when they see people suffering. They got that really well throughout this series. They got that very well. Even with this in Season 3, yeah, there's some things that they do, like I'm talking about the VIPs. The things that they do, like they are pure psychopaths, and they wrote that very well. Whoever wrote the VIPs and the people that are behind Squid Game, the front man? Whoever wrote these characters, like, they did a very good job portraying the mind of the psychopath. They did a very good job there. Like, even, like with the VIPs, like, they're like literally sitting there watching people playing this death game, and they're literally like placing bets. They're having fun, they're drinking because it's fun for them, That's the thing that they got really well with the writing, is the mind of the psychopath. Like I said, they did a very good job writing the mind of the psychopath. So that's a big plus in this whole entire series. Now, about the main character, now I keep forgetting Korean names, so I can never remember them, but Player 456. Now, they brought his entire character arc. They bring it to a close beautifully in his season. They bring it was beautifully done. Like I said, mentioned the ending of this season does have a very deep meaning. I'm not going to get into it because it is I have to get into heavy spoilers. But I did like the way they ended his story. I did like it because it does have a deeper meaning, and I did like it. So yeah, they wrap it up nice and neatly. The only thing is with as I mentioned before, there is how I mentioned the story was a bit rushed. Is that the detective, his story in this season was way too rushed. Like he needed more scenes, definitely. Like especially when he finally gets to the island. I'm not gonna say like what happens, but when he finally gets to the island, like there's almost nothing for him to do after that. I wish there was a scene, where he confronts his brother and he says, why are you doing this? Why did you do this? There is a little bit of that, but it's not enough. I wish they did more with him, but it is what it is. But they did bring it up to a close, especially like what he ends up with. I'm not going to mention what that is, but what he ends up with does kind of bring his character to a close, but it is too rushed. Anyway, that's my opinion of that. I wish he had a little bit more scenes. Actually, there is one character that they didn't have a proper ending, was that woman that was looking for a child. Now, I did like what they were doing with the character throughout this season and what she was doing. The thing is that they did not end her story arc. Like it's definitely more open-ended. There's no closure to her character. Now, unless they do like a spin-off, which I highly doubt they'll do. But yeah, I guess they couldn't end her story properly. So because it is like focused on the Squid Game, like her story arc is outside of the game. So I guess I cannot understand that, but it is what it is. Now, I would have preferred if they did end the story arc in this season, but they didn't. So, oh well. Now, there are some other characters, the ones that are playing the game, they were like wasted potential. Like they should have done more with them. I can think of like 3 of them. Like one of them was the father. If you've seen the show, you know who I'm talking about. So the father character, like near the end, because he's supposed to be like a genius, but he does something so stupid at the end. It's like, why'd you even think like that? Like it's a bit dumb. The other one was, the one that says he fought in the military. No, he was in the military, but he never fired a gun, which apparently is actually a mistranslation in the English version. Apparently, yeah, it's a mistranslation, but yeah, they wasted his potential completely. They should have done more with him. And the other one was the one that kind of ends up on drugs, kind of thing, because he finds, the Eminem wannabe guy. He how it had that cross and he had those pills. Yeah, he kind of got addicted to that and he started hallucinating and stuff. That character, if you follow his entire story arc, they do nothing with him. Because he was being bullied right at the beginning of the show, and they did nothing with it after that. Another wasted potential. But anyway, it is what it is. But other than that, like I know I'm being kind of like a bit negative here, but other than that, the rest of the show is actually pretty good, as I mentioned. Like the story is pretty good. The main characters that bring all those to a close, even though some of them are a bit rushed and some wasted potential. I'm gonna say this. This show is definitely not better than season 1, because season 1 was like, the it thing, there was the first time they did a show like this, it was a big hit. And I don't think they can reproduce that type of thing again, because when you continue in the story from there, like you can't repeat what you did in season 1, because it's like, you guys know what I'm saying. Okay, so season 1 was the best one. Now, I do think that season 3 is definitely better than season 2. I do think that, because season 2 kind of like, I did like it, but it did feel lacking here and there, and especially stopped in the middle of nowhere. So, like season 2 is definitely like setting up season 3. So that's the thing. So season 3 was actually pretty good in my opinion. So do I recommend this? Yes, 100%. If you like this type of shows, like game shows, psychopaths that are in charge and stuff like that, yeah, I do recommend this show. I do recommend this show. So yeah, definitely go watch it. It is a good watch. Now, I do want to mention one thing, is that I remember when season 1 finished, they actually announced that there's going to be an American version of this show, right? Now, literally the ending scene of season 3, the ending, like the last episode, the ending, literally actually hints that the American one is coming, and it is within the same universe, but obviously it's not going to follow the same characters. So I don't know how the American version is gonna work, but yeah, it is what it is. Which basically shows that this the Squid Game is basically worldwide. It's going worldwide. There's one in every country almost. That's what they're hinting at with that ending. But yeah, so there is going to be an American version, and it is going to be somewhat of a sequel to this, but not a direct sequel because, like I said, all the characters have come to a close. They're not gonna. I highly doubt they're gonna reappear. Like even the frontman is not gonna reappear in this. So basically, it's gonna be a sequel slash spin-off because, like I said, it's not continuing the story. It's just Squid Game is happening in a different country. We're getting the American version of it, and if it even is called Squid Game, because they could always name it something else. But yeah, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see what they do with this American version and if it's even any good. But we're just gonna have to wait and see. So anyway, I do highly recommend you guys do watch Squid Game because it is very good. It is a very entertaining show and it is a good show. So if you got Netflix, definitely watch this. It is a good watch and you are gonna have fun with it and it is very entertaining. So anyway, those are my thoughts. So like and subscribe if you like this kind of content. And yeah, thank you for watching.